Human operative saw violet leader. Tortured in camp, went furious and freed. Everyone! The battered shuttle pitched through the thick, corrosive clouds of Rhinex 4, its hull groaning beneath the relentless assault of chemical winds. Gravity flickered, sometimes crushing, sometimes light as breath, while the air inside reeked of burnt ozone, searing the lungs of those unlucky enough to breathe it. The vessel's interior, a cramped metallic bay caged by flickering force fields, echoed with the restless noise of prisoners. Groans, whispered plans, the shuffling of chains. Among them, Marcus Hale lay on his side, eyes half-lidded, the picture of defeat. Yet beneath the mask, his mind was a coiled spring. He catalogued every detail with ruthless precision, the insectoid Draxian guards stalking the aisles, their iridescent carapaces reflecting sickly green light, the high-pitched whine of portable shield generators clipped to their belts, the sharp, disciplined rhythm of their patrols. Shock batons glimmered in clawed hands, their tips pulsing, promising agony. The atmosphere's toxins clawed at throats and eyes, but Marcus's engineered body filtered the poisons, his breath steady, his focus undimmed. A sudden jolt threw prisoners against their restraints. Marcus used the moment to scan his fellow captives. Dozens of species, most broken and hollow-eyed. He was shoved forward, herded down a grimy corridor that vibrated with the shuttle's descent. At the end, a heavy door yawned open, swallowing him into a dim cell. Inside, bodies huddled against the cold metal. An old Lurian, his mottled skin hanging loose over wiry limbs, slouched near the wall. A pair of horned twins from the Kuros system clung to each other, their eyes darting with animal fear. Yet in the far corner, half shrouded by shadow, sat a figure that drew Marcus's attention like gravity. Naira. She was taller than any human, her posture impossibly straight despite her surroundings. Her skin gleamed with a deep, otherworldly violet, and her eyes, liquid silver, luminous even in the gloom, surveyed the cell with measured calm. She wore robes of midnight black, their folds swallowing the thin light, and every line of her body radiated a quiet, unshakable authority. The others seemed to orbit her, unconsciously deferring to her presence. Darrow, the Lurian, caught Marcus's eye and nodded in Naira's direction. "She's the only reason any of us are still in one piece," he murmured, voice gravelly. Marcus offered a non-committal grunt, but Naira's gaze had already found him. She watched him with unsettling intensity, her silver eyes unblinking. He tried to look away, feigning exhaustion, but she was not so easily deterred. "You're not as helpless as you pretend," Naira said, her voice rich and smooth, cutting through the cell's low murmur. Her words were not an accusation, but a statement of fact. "You're too alert. You don't breathe like the others." He shrugged, summoning a weary smile. "I suppose some of us just have thicker skin." Naira tilted her head, studying him. "You measure the guards' steps. You watch the exits. Why lie?" "I'm just a pilot," Marcus replied, letting his eyelids droop. "Wrong place, wrong time." She almost smiled, but her eyes narrowed instead. "Pilots don't watch like predators." Before he could answer, the cell door slammed open, metal shuddering against the frame. Draxian guards surged in, their mandibles twitching. Overseer Skarn led them, a hulking brute with jagged scars slicing through his emerald carapace, his gaze promising pain. "Evaluation time," Skarn growled, his voice a guttural rasp. He pointed one massive claw at Marcus, then at Naira. "You two, move." Marcus tensed, but forced his body to remain loose, calculating. Naira rose, her robes swirling, and walked with unyielding grace. The guards bound their wrists and marched them through echoing halls lit by sputtering luminescent strips. They entered a cavernous chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. Rows of diagnostic tables gleamed under cold lights. Alien prisoners moaned as scanners passed over them, robotic arms hissing, branding flesh with coded tags. Marcus's senses sharpened. He mapped every exit, memorized guard routines, registered the placement of surveillance nodes. A pair of Draxians wrestled Naira onto a table. She did not struggle. Her eyes, still shining with defiance, met Marcus's as clamps snapped around her wrists and ankles. He felt a surge of adrenaline, anger, focus, something more. He fought to suppress it. Chief Technician Vel entered, a tall Draxian with a cluster of optical lenses where her face should be. She glided to Naira's side, fingers unfolding into cruel instruments. Marcus forced himself to breathe, to watch, to wait for his moment. But as Vel leaned in, her shadow looming, and Naira's silver gaze found his, something within Marcus shifted. Protective fury threatened to crack his facade. He steeled himself, locking his emotions away. He knew, as he watched the technician's sinister devices descend, that the worst was yet to come. As dawn broke over the labor camp, the copper sunlight caught on coils of razor wire, setting the fences aflame in metallic fire. The chill air smelled of scorched minerals and chemical waste, drifting from the distant refineries that squatted like beasts in the ashen landscape. Prisoners moved in ragged lines, heads bowed, herded by Draxian guards whose mandibles clicked with each barked command. Marcus adjusted to the routine with unsettling speed. Where others staggered, hollowed out by the toxic air and endless labor, he moved with calculated ease, careful to mask the resilience that his engineered biology granted him. He hunched his shoulders and shuffled with the rest, his gaze unfocused, his expression dulled, playing the role of the broken pilot. But behind the act, his mind was razor sharp. Every day, every hour, he watched and learned the rhythm of the patrols, the shift changes, the blind spots in the towers, the way the force fields cycled and flickered at dawn and dusk. He mapped the camp's layout with perfect recall, etching escape routes and choke points into memory. On the line that morning, as prisoners lugged slag containers across the yard, Naira materialized at his side. Up close, she was even more striking than he remembered. Tall and slender, her violet skin seemed to absorb the morning light, glowing softly in the half-shadow. Her long fingers moved with silent authority, signaling the work crew with the subtlest tilt of her hand, a nod, a look. The guards never noticed, but the prisoners did. Tools passed smoothly, loads shifted, injuries covered. She wielded control without a word. Marcus kept his eyes down, but his voice was calm. "You direct the others like you've done this before." Nira's lips quirked, her gaze fixed on the rusted ground before them. Survival demands cooperation. Someone must keep hope alive, even here. Her tone held neither pride nor self-pity. "You're observant, Marcus. Too observant." He risked a sideways glance. "Habit of a cargo pilot, you learn to watch your back." Naira's silver eyes flicked to his face, searching. "Pilots usually have softer hands." He shrugged, letting his fingers flex as if from exhaustion. "I crashed on this rock. Spent weeks trying to fix a transmitter before they found me." She did not press, but her silence spoke volumes. The unspoken dance between them sharpened, each word a careful probe. As the shift wore on, their conversation grew bolder, veiled references to escape, to the guards' patterns, to small acts of sabotage. Naira's authority was effortless, her presence a quiet force that drew people in. Even Marcus found himself drawn into her gravity. During a brief respite, the prisoners gathered in the meager shade of a supply outpost. Naira sat beside Marcus, folding long legs beneath her robes. She regarded him with frank appraisal. "You're not ordinary," she said quietly, her tone edged with challenge. Marcus's mouth twisted. "No one here is." Her gaze narrowed. "You move with precision, not desperation. You hide it, but not well enough." He let out a slow breath. Up close, he caught the faint, clean scent she carried, like rain striking hot stone, a freshness that cut through the camp's stench. Her eyes shimmered, irises swirling silver in the half-light. She was too close, her presence unsettling his careful detachment. "Why do you care who I am?" he asked. Naira leaned in, voice softer. "Because the Draxians fear you. I see how they watch you, and because if you're more than you seem, we need you." Her words hung between them, heavy with implication. For a moment, Marcus said nothing. The connection between them was unmistakable, at once tactical and strangely intimate. He studied her, her steady hands, the quickening of her breath, the way she never truly relaxed. She had secrets, too, and he felt a pulse of kinship, and something more. That night, when the copper sun dipped behind the ridge and the guards grew restless with the shift change, Marcus lingered near the barracks gate. Naira passed close, so close he felt the brush of her robes against his arm. Her fingers traced a pattern on his wrist, quick, deliberate, a coded message. She whispered, her voice barely audible. "Old supply ducts. Midnight." Then she was gone, swallowed by the darkness, her silhouette vanishing into the maze of pipes and shadows. The message lingered like a brand on his skin. Marcus's mind spun, calculating risks, but his heart had already decided. He watched her disappear, knowing his mission had shifted. This was no longer just about survival. At the appointed hour, Marcus slipped from his bunk and moved through the sleeping barracks with the silent grace of a predator. He skirted the searchlights, ducked beneath sensor arcs, and found the concealed entrance to the supply ducts, a narrow grate hidden behind a pile of discarded machinery. He pried it open and crawled inside, the metal cold against his palms. The ducts were tight, labyrinthine, lined with condensation and the hum of distant machinery. He followed the route Nira had described, counting turns and junctions. Finally, a faint glow beckoned ahead, a dim lamp shielded by a pile of rags. Nira waited, seated on a crate, her robes pooled around her like liquid night. She looked up as he entered, her face unguarded for the first time. "You came," she said, her voice tinged with relief. "I said I would." Marcus's tone was gentle, but edged with caution. He scanned the cramped space, noting the battered terminal set up on a crate, its screen flickering with encrypted data. Naira gestured him closer. "I found this old access point. The Draxians use it to monitor the prisoners, but it's more than that." She tapped the terminal, bringing up schematics and lists. Species, numbers, experiment logs. "The camp is not just a labor pool. They're testing us, pushing each species to the breaking point." "For what?" Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Invasion," Naira said flatly. "They want to know who will resist, who will break, who can be controlled." Her fingers trembled, just for a moment. "They're preparing for something far larger, and they're almost ready." Marcus frowned, absorbing the data. "You risked a lot bringing me here." Her eyes searched his. "I had to know who you really are." Her voice softened. "You're a covert operative. You don't have to confirm it. I can see it in everything you do." She stepped closer, the narrow space forcing their bodies near. "Are you here to help us, or to help yourself?" He hesitated, weighing his options. He could deny it, could lie, but something about her presence, her unwavering courage, stripped away his defenses. Before he could answer, Naira reached out and caught his hand. Her touch was electric, sending a jolt through his nerves. She held his gaze, unblinking. "I won't betray you, Marcus. But you must be honest with me." He searched her eyes for any hint of deception and found only fierce determination, and fear, barely hidden. She drew a shaky breath. "They're going to take me for the next phase, the lethal experiments." Her voice remained steady, but her eyes glimmered with dread. "I have seen what happens to those who go. No one comes back." A surge of protectiveness welled up inside Marcus, fierce and uncompromising. He squeezed her hand, feeling the strength and fragility in her grip. Naira placed her palm over his heart, her touch grounding him. Show them what happens when they threaten what matters to you. Their faces were close, breath mingling in the tight space. The plan formed between them in urgent whispers: how to disrupt the security grid, which guards could be distracted, where the weak points were. It was reckless, almost hopeless, but neither flinched. As the shadows shifted above them, and the camp's alarms began to wind up for another shift, Nira and Marcus parted, their plan forged in the secrecy of the ducks. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together, no longer just for survival, but for something neither dared name. The following day, the observation gallery swarmed with Draxian officials, commanders in polished carapace armor, sleek diplomats with golden crests, and scientists eager for spectacle. Behind the thick, transparent barrier, Marcus stood rigid between two guards, his wrists bound, every muscle tense. He barely registered the hushed conversations in the tiered gallery or the shimmer of the security fields. His entire focus narrowed to the chamber below, where Naira was forced onto the testing platform. Brilliant white lights glared down, cold and merciless. A semicircle of Draxian technicians watched from behind their consoles, antennae twitching. Chief Technician Vel took center stage, her voice amplified through the chamber. Today, we test the neural endurance of the Xerian species, Vel intoned, her voice clinical. She gestured to the device suspended above Naira, a lattice of humming emitters, each one pulsing with a sickly blue energy. Naira's robes had been stripped away, replaced by a sterile gown. Her wrists and ankles were clamped to the platform, her head held fast by an unforgiving brace. Even so, she held herself with dignity, silver eyes blazing defiance as she swept the gallery above. When her gaze found Marcus, he willed every ounce of strength into his stare, silently promising her she was not alone. Vel's claws danced over the control panel. Initiate sequence. The first jolt surged through the platform. Nira's body arched, muscles straining against the restraints. The energy crackled around her skull, but she uttered not a sound. Her jaw clenched, fingers curled white-knuckled around the metal. Marcus felt his own breath lock in his chest. He had seen torture before, endured it, but this was different. Vel adjusted the dials. Increase output. Phase 2. A second, harsher pulse rippled through Nira. This time her control faltered. A strangled cry tore from her throat, echoing off the sterile walls. The officials leaned forward, rapt. Marcus's heart hammered, cold fury spreading through his veins. He watched Naira's eyes, saw the pain and the unbroken will beneath it, and something inside him snapped. He counted the seconds. He saw Vel's hand hovering over the switch for the third pulse. Without conscious thought, Marcus moved. With a guttural roar, he twisted against his guards, wrenching free as they fumbled for their batons. He pivoted, slamming an elbow into the nearest Draxian's throat. The guard collapsed, dropping his weapon. Marcus seized it and spun, driving the shock baton into the next guard's midsection. Sparks flew as armor cracked. Screams erupted in the gallery. He lunged for the third guard, grappling for the carbine. The guard fired wildly, shattering overhead lights and sending shards raining down. Marcus wrenched the weapon away and dispatched the Draxian with a brutal blow to the head. He caught a flash of movement, officials scattering, scientists scrambling for cover. Alarms blared, red lights pulsing. Without hesitation, Marcus hurled himself at the observation glass. The reinforced panels spider-webbed, then exploded inward as he drove the butt of the carbine through it. He landed hard on the chamber floor below, shards skittering around him. Vel shrieked, ducking behind her console. Marcus sprang up, weapon ready. He covered the length of the chamber in a handful of strides. Naira's head lolled, sweat beading her brow, but her eyes snapped open as he tore away the restraints. "Can you fight?" Marcus demanded, voice urgent. Nira grinned, fierce and wild despite her exhaustion. Always. Her hand shot out, steady as steel. He tossed her the plasma carbine. She caught it, flipping the safety with practiced ease. Marcus spun to face the incoming guards. Dozens poured through the entryway, shock batons raised, plasma bolts searing the air. He ducked behind the console, returning fire with surgical precision, dropping one guard after another. Naira joined him, her shots cutting through the confusion, her movements impossibly fluid. Together, they became a storm, each anticipating the other's actions, every step perfectly in sync. The other prisoners, emboldened by the chaos, surged from their holding pens. Darrow the Lurian roared, hurling himself at a guard and wresting away his weapon. The Kuros twins darted through the fray, freeing others, passing out tools and makeshift arms. In moments, revolt swept the facility. Marcus and Naira advanced, carving a path through the main corridor. He led, instincts honed to a razor's edge, reading enemy movements before they appeared. Naira's uncanny grace complemented his precision. She vaulted obstacles, shielded Marcus's flank, and fired with deadly calm. They moved as one, unstoppable. At the main junction, a heavy blast door blocked their way. Marcus ducked into a side alcove, yanking open a panel to expose a tangle of alien circuitry. He barked over his shoulder, "Cover me!" Naira planted herself in the doorway, firing in controlled bursts as Draxian reinforcements pressed in. Plasma bolts ricocheted off the walls, filling the air with burning ozone. Marcus's fingers danced over the controls, hacking the system. Streams of incomprehensible glyphs scrolled by, but he parsed them in seconds. He rerouted power, scrambled the security protocols, and initiated a cascade failure. Suddenly, doors throughout the facility slid open. Sirens screamed as turrets swiveled and fired on the Draxian guards. Prisoners poured into the corridors, overwhelming their captors with sheer numbers and desperation. The tide had turned. Marcus slammed the panel shut and grabbed Naira's hand. "Move!" They sprinted down the corridor, racing for the control hub. The walls vibrated with the sounds of battle. Shouts, explosions, the clangor of boots on metal. Marcus skidded into the main chamber, vaulted over an unconscious guard, and reached the central console. Naira joined him, eyes wide as she took in the carnage. "What now?" Marcus's hands flew over the controls. "I'm sending a distress signal. Wideband, every frequency. If anyone's listening, they'll know what the Draxians are doing here." Naira's fingers closed over his wrist, steadying him. "And the prisoners?" "We free them all, then we hold the line." He triggered the final sequence, all locks disengaged. Holographic displays erupted across the hub, showing cell doors springing open, prisoners flooding into the yard, automated turrets turning on their masters. The camp was in chaos, but for the first time, it was chaos with purpose. Naira looked at Marcus as if truly seeing him for the first time. "You hid this side of yourself well." He managed a grim smile. "Didn't want to ruin my cover." She laughed, a sound fierce and bright, even amid the destruction. "I prefer the real you." The air vibrated with distant explosions. The facility shook as the Draxian garrison rallied for a counterattack. But in that moment, with alarms wailing and freedom tantalizingly close, Marcus and Naira stood together, united, unbreakable, ready for the next phase. As the doors to the command hub blew open and the first wave of Draxian soldiers stormed in, Marcus and Naira lifted their weapons side by side. The battle for liberation had only just begun. The camp exploded into rebellion. Sirens wailed, echoing off steel walls and broken concrete, as prisoners surged through shattered gates and smoke-streaked corridors. Marcus and Naira moved through the chaos as the Resistance's living core. His tactical genius and burning focus fused seamlessly with her calm resolve and unshakable leadership. Every desperate face, every voice calling for direction, turned toward them. Marcus strode through the heart of the uprising, issuing orders that cut through panic like a knife. Barricade that entrance. Use the slag carts. Stack them too high. Rig the mining tools for defense. He improvised with whatever was at hand, transforming scavenged equipment into makeshift shields and deadly traps. Darrow and the Kuros twins relayed his commands, dragging cables and welding scrap into choke points. When plasma welders sputtered, Naira's voice stilled the doubt. "We hold here. You are stronger than you know." She stood atop a pile of rubble, tall and serene amid the fray. Her violet skin glimmered in the firelight, her silver eyes sweeping the yard, catching and steadying every gaze that met hers. With a quiet word or a raised hand, she calmed the panicked, organized the wounded, and rekindled hope. Where Marcus brought the storm, Naira was the eye, unmoved, unwavering. Wave after wave of Draxian troops slammed into the makeshift barricades. Their commands rang out, guttural and sharp, but the defenders bent without breaking. Marcus stalked the front lines, picking out weaknesses in the enemy's formation, directing fire with quick, clipped signals. "Wait for my mark. Now, flank left. Cut them off at the generator." Naira was never far from his side. When Marcus passed her a scavenged plasma pistol, their hands brushed, brief, electric. She met his eyes, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They needed no words. Every glance, every nod spoke volumes. As the defenders faltered, Naira's calm steadied them. "Together!" she cried, rallying those nearest, her voice threading through the chaos. "We are not alone. Stand with me." The Draxians adapted, sending shock troopers in heavy armor. Marcus anticipated them, using the camp's machinery against its masters. "Flood the lower yard. Seal the blast doors when they're through," he barked. The Lurian prisoners hauled levers, and a torrent of caustic waste swept the enemy from their feet. Marcus and Naira led a counterattack, driving the invaders back with a ferocity that stunned even the seasoned guards. Between the surges of violence, moments of rare quiet fell. Nira knelt beside Marcus as he patched a wounded Kuros twin, her hand steady on his shoulder. "You always know what to do," she murmured. He glanced up, sweat streaking his brow, a crooked smile breaking through. "Only because you make it possible. Without you, they'd scatter in fear." She squeezed his hand, lingering, her eyes soft. "You see the whole board. I see the pieces. Together, we are strong." They worked side by side, improvising, trusting, their partnership deepening with every breath. Marcus found himself listening for her voice amid the din, watching the way she moved among the fighters, how even the most broken prisoner straightened under her touch. Naira's admiration for Marcus's adaptability was clear in every glance, every word. He, in turn, began to rely on her wisdom, drawing courage from her presence. As the fighting wore on, the prisoners' belief shifted. Escape was no longer the dream. Victory shimmered at the edge of possibility. They saw what Marcus and Naira saw in each other: resilience, hope, and the power of unity. A lull fell as the defenders regrouped at the main yard. The barricades smoldered, and the air shimmered with heat and tension. Marcus stood atop a battered loader, scanning the horizon as another wave gathered beyond the perimeter. Naira joined him, her robes torn, her skin streaked with soot, but her eyes as bright as ever. She leaned close, her voice pitched low. "They're massing for one last push. If they break through—" "They won't," Marcus said, cutting her off. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. "Not if we stand together." Her smile was fierce. "Then let them come." The prisoners gathered, forming a battered but resolute line. Darrow hoisted a scavenged banner, the Kuros twins brandished stolen carbines, and a chorus of voices rose, low, uncertain at first, then swelling with resolve. Marcus raised his voice, projecting across the yard. "They think we're broken," he called, his words carrying over the crowd, every syllable sharp with conviction. They think we're nothing, scattered, beaten, afraid. But look at us. Look at what we've done. We've stood together. We've fought together. And now we show them what unity and courage can do. A rumble of assent swept the prisoners. Naira's gaze swept the crowd, her hand still in Marcus's. This is our camp now. Our future. The moment crystallized, every eye turning to them. Their clasped hands, their lingering glances, said what words could not. Their alliance was more than strategy, more than circumstance. It was forged in fire, tempered by hardship, bound by trust, and illuminated by something deeper that neither could deny. In that final stand, Marcus and Naira stood side by side, the heart of a rebellion that now dared to hope. As the Draxians advanced for the last assault, the defenders did not shrink. United by purpose, emboldened by their leaders, they prepared to show their captors, and each other, what could be born from shared courage and unbreakable resolve. With the command center secured, the chaos of battle receded to a tense lull. Smoke hung low in the corridors as prisoners turned defenders swept through shattered control rooms and silent guard posts, rounding up the last of the Draxian loyalists. Marcus moved with purpose, flanked by Darrow, the grizzled Lurian whose weathered hands were surprisingly deft at alien circuitry. Together, they gutted the camp's comms array, repurposing transmitters and amplifiers for a very different signal. Marcus's fingers danced over scorched controls, eyes flicking between the battered consoles and the flickering power indicators. "We need every watt this heap can give," he muttered. Darrow patched in cables, splicing lines with bits of scavenged wire and muttering curses in his guttural tongue. At his shoulder, Nira arrived, a calm presence in the storm, her violet skin catching the soft blue glow of emergency lights. She laid a hand on Marcus's arm, steadying the shake in his fingers. "We're ready," she said, her voice low but certain. "The world is listening." Marcus nodded, swallowing the knot in his throat. He opened a channel, the comms crackling as the transmitter's battered antennae strained for reach. Together, he and Naira leaned toward the microphone. Darrow nodded encouragement from the console, then stepped back, letting them stand alone before the stars. Marcus's voice rang out first, measured and strong. "This is Marcus Hale, formerly prisoner. The Draxian lies end now. We have seized their camp. Their crimes, against humans, Zirians, Lurians, and a dozen more, will no longer be hidden." Naira's hand slipped into his. She drew herself up, her silver eyes shining with conviction. "We speak to every world shackled by fear. We speak to every heart beaten but not broken. The time for silence is over. Rise. Wherever you are not alone." Their fingers entwined, a signal as clear as any code. Together they spoke, alternating, reinforcing, sharing hope and tactics. They described how the camp had fallen, how the unity of the oppressed shattered Draxian arrogance. "Find each other," Marcus urged, "and fight together." Their broadcast crossed parsecs, carried on illicit channels and open frequencies. Somewhere, in another camp, a prisoner heard Nira's voice and wept. In a distant city, rebels recorded Marcus's words and replayed them through hidden speakers. The message became more than hope. It became instruction. Resistance spread like wildfire. Within hours, reports streamed in. Screens flickered with coded bursts and hurried voices. A mining colony overrun by its workers. A research facility ablaze with revolt. A penal barge commandeered by its own cargo. Darrow relayed the news, grinning through cracked lips. "They call you the Human Fury," he told Marcus, laughter in his rumble. "And Naira, Violet Lady of the Uprising." Naira glanced at Marcus, her lips curving in amusement. "It seems we have become myth." His reply was a quiet, odd chuckle. "Let's hope legends are harder to kill." As the word spread, hope surged, and with it, the Draxians' wrath. The first sign was a tremor in the ground, then the shadow of gunships sweeping across the camp's ruined yard. Sirens blared, screens filling with enemy signatures, shock troops dropping from orbit, armored vehicles churning the scorched earth. The Draxians meant to erase this rebellion with overwhelming force. Marcus's mind sharpened. Get everyone to the inner yard, trap the main corridors, set charges at the gate and fallback points. He mapped the defense in seconds, his voice a blade cutting through fear. Darrow, loop the perimeter sensors. Let us see them before they see us. Nira moved through the defenders, her voice calm, unhurried. You know your places. Trust your training. We hold together. Where panic threatened, she brought order, her hand steady on every trembling shoulder. Her presence turned dread into resolve. The Draxians attacked with the fury of cornered beasts. Gunships spat plasma into barricades. Troop carriers disgorged shock infantry in midnight armor, their heavy boots shaking the earth. Marcus's traps exploded in calculated bursts. Fuel tanks rigged as mines, barricades packed with shrapnel. Draxian formations faltered, their perfect lines splintering as Marcus anticipated every move, every overreach. Naira fought at his side, her carbine precise, her commands crisp. Left flank, reinforce with welders. Pull the wounded back. Her voice carried, unflinching, as she directed the defense. At every critical point, she and Marcus met, passing weapons, sharing quick, wordless glances, moving with a synchronicity that left their followers awestruck. The assault peaked with the arrival of Overseer Skarn, the hulking Draxian whose scarred shell gleamed with battle lust. He crashed through the defenders, scattering them with sweeps of his shock staff, his mandibles clicking in savage triumph. Skarn fixed his gaze on Marcus, hatred burning in his multifaceted eyes. Human fury, he spat. Your legend ends now. Marcus stepped forward, carbine slung aside, fists clenched. I'm not a legend, he growled, but I am your reckoning. The duel was brutal. Fists and claws, staff against improvised blade. Skarn's blows were relentless, each one meant to shatter, to end. Marcus dodged, countered, his body moving with the hard-earned instincts of 1,000 battles. Sparks flew as metal struck carapace. Skarn roared, battering Marcus back, but Marcus's mind stayed cool, finding the pattern in every attack. Naira covered him, her shots pinning down Draxian reinforcements, her faith in Marcus unwavering. You can do this, she called, her voice fierce and clear. Skarn pressed the advantage, driving Marcus to his knees. With a savage grin, he raised his staff for the killing blow, but Marcus rolled aside, snatching a live wire from the wreckage. He lashed out, wrapping the cable around Skarn's neck. Energy arced, Skarn convulsed, and Marcus drove him to the ground with a final explosive surge. The Overseer's bulk crashed to the dirt. The defenders surged, overwhelming the last of the Draxians. The camp was theirs, free, defiant, and unbroken. Above, the sky split with the arrival of the Coalition fleet. Sleek warships dropped through the clouds, their insignia blazing hope to all below. Dropships landed, disgorging medics and troops. Commander Lyra, tall and imposing, strode from the lead shuttle, her gaze sweeping the liberated camp. She found Marcus and Nira at the command center, both streaked with soot and blood, hands still entwined. Lyra's salute was crisp, her words clipped. You've shifted the balance. Your actions have inspired revolt across the sector. The Draxians are in retreat. Marcus nodded, exhaustion written in every line of his face. The prisoners? Lyra gestured to her medics, who swarmed the yard, tending the wounded and shepherding survivors. We'll see to them. Rest now. You've earned it. The debrief was swift, the implications enormous. Entire systems rising in revolt, the coalition's strength redoubled. Marcus and Naira stood shoulder to shoulder as new plans were drawn, new hope forged. When the camp finally quieted, the two of them slipped away, finding a quiet corner beneath the battered comms array. The stars wheeled overhead, the fires of battle slowly fading. Nira leaned into Marcus, her voice soft. Side by side? He looked at her, heart full, and squeezed her hand. Always, he whispered. Their bond, sealed in fire, in hope, and in the promise of a future neither could have imagined, would echo far beyond the camp, a beacon to all who still fought in the darkness. On Helios Station, the air inside the Coalition command chamber was tense with the weight of recent history. The polished floor reflected the cold blue glow of tactical hollows. Marcus stood tall in a borrowed uniform, shoulders squared, eyes keen and restless. Beside him, Nira radiated her quiet strength, her violet skin luminous against the austere backdrop, silver eyes calm as stars. They faced Admiral Soren, whose reputation as the unyielding spine of the coalition was evident in every line of his chiseled face. Admiral Soren's gaze swept over them, sharp and appraising. He did not waste words on pleasantries. "You understand what you've done," he began, his voice carrying the cadence of command. "Since the transmission from Rhynex, a dozen camps have fallen. Draxian lines are in chaos. Prisoners, once scattered and silent, now move as one. Their morale is shattered. Their commanders are afraid." He gestured to a vast floating map. Red markers, once dominant, now flickered and faded as the blue of resistance surged across worlds. "Your names have become rallying cries. The tactics you devised, ambushes, sabotage, coordinated uprisings, are now standard doctrine for every cell in the sector." Marcus exchanged a glance with Nira, feeling the ripple of awe and disbelief that had not quite faded. "We did what had to be done," he said quietly. Soren nodded, lips twitching into something almost like respect. "You did what others dared not imagine." Nira inclined her head, voice measured and clear. "The galaxy was waiting for a spark, Admiral. We were only the match." A faint smile broke through Soren's iron composure. "Sometimes the match is as important as the fire." He circled the chamber, hands clasped behind his back. "You should know. Offers are coming in faster than we can process. Naira, they want you as a strategic advisor for the Coalition Council. The Zirian delegations are insistent. Your knowledge of enemy psychology, your ability to unite fractured factions, will save lives. Marcus, Special Operations Command wants you to lead a new division. Your unorthodox methods are now official policy." Marcus's mouth twisted in wry amusement. "Didn't think I'd ever make doctrine." Soren arched a brow. "Legend has its privileges." He paused, his expression sobering. "But legend also has a cost. You will be targets of Draxian assassins, of opportunists hoping to claim your glory. You've changed the war. The galaxy will expect more." Naira glanced down, fingers brushing Marcus's. "We never sought this." "No," Soren agreed. "But you rose when others fell. That is why you are here." He keyed a command and holographic headlines spun around the room. "The human fury and the violet lady turn the tide. Dissent ignites across the outer rim. Captives become commanders." Faces, human, Syrian, Lurian, Corrosion, looked up from the projections, their eyes filled with hope and fire. Soren's voice softened, almost paternal. "You are more than soldiers now. You are symbols of hope, of unity. You have forged an alliance not in treaties, but in blood and trust. The fury of a human, guided by the heart of the Violet Lady." Marcus met Naira's eyes. In that look was the memory of everything: the cell on Rhynex, the searing pain of the experiments, the long nights planning rebellion, the terror and the exultation of battle, the impossible hope that had grown, fragile and fierce, between them. He squeezed her hand, grounding himself in her presence. Naira's reply to Soren was soft, but unyielding. We'll serve as needed, but we do it together. Soren inclined his head. That is the condition on which I insisted. Your partnership is the coalition's greatest asset. I will not see it broken for bureaucracy or pride. The Admiral's summary carried the ring of prophecy. Your alliance, born in adversity and sealed by trust and affection, has become myth. The Draxians believed they could rule with fear and division. You have shown them what unity can do. You have changed the course of the war. The briefing drew to a close, aides moving in with data logs and new directives, but Soren waved them off. Go, he said quietly. The galaxy will not wait. You have earned your next step. Marcus and Naira exited the command chamber together, the doors hissing shut behind them. The corridor outside was quieter, the hum of heliostation life, a steady current beneath the thrum of distant engines. The future was an uncertain constellation, offers, missions, dangers, decisions yet to be made. But they moved side by side, hands entwined, every step a testament to the partnership they had forged. A group of coalition troopers saluted as they passed. A technician stared, awestruck. Somewhere, a newsfeed flickered their faces alongside the words, Legends of the Resistance. Marcus only smiled, and Naira squeezed his hand, her touch a silent vow. She looked up at him, eyes silver and warm. Whatever comes next, she said, her voice pitched low for him alone. Promise me we face it side by side. He stopped, turning to her fully, the world narrowing to the space between them. Always, he answered, his voice rough with emotion and certainty. No matter how far, no matter how hard, always. Naira's smile was quiet, radiant. She leaned into him, the galaxy's noise fading. Together they stepped forward, partners, lovers, legends. Their journey was only beginning, but they would meet every trial as one, shaping the fate of worlds not as myth, but as truth. Hand in hand, they vanished into the station's bustling future, ready for whatever came, together. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.